Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy, and with a joint faculty appointment at Ross University School of Medicine. And in this lecture, I will be talking about a website known as Datasets, datasetssearch.research.google.com. And then there's a search query that's attached to it, and CDC Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System. That's one of the more important nationally representative data sets that there is. But otherwise, there are some other systems of BRFSS. So another one that is oftentimes used is something called NHINTS. So Health Information National Trends Survey. So this says it's provided by the ICPSR, which many of you might be familiar with. This is a license to ICPSR, University of Michigan. So the HINTS Health Information National Trends Survey was started in 2005, and it provides a series of questions addressed colon, lung, cervical, and breast cancer, the human papillomavirus, and respondents' familiarity with cancer screening procedures such as mammogram, colonoscopy, and the PSA test. So as you can see, there's multiple risk factors and multiple screening techniques that this data set actually provides. And again, I'm talking about the HINTS, not the ICPSR, which is actually a vast database in and of itself. So this is beyond the scope of this lecture, but if you want to kind of take a look at www.icpsr.umich.edu, then you'll find that data set. So onward, and so there's actually HINTS 5. So you might be asking yourself, why would you even bother? Because it's 2005, but if you see HINTS 5, like cycle 2, then this is another one to go into. So there's 45 data sets found, probably goes into each year. So you can familiarize yourself with which data set you're wanting to look at. Now, NHANES is a national examination survey. Some places actually have 20 years of data. So NHANES is a cross-sectional study. Even if you add multiple years, it does not change the fact that it's a cross-sectional study. Many even experienced researchers oftentimes confuse that. I did a study between 1999 to 2010. That does not make it a longitudinal study. That is still a cross-sectional study. However, if you do link it with a mortality file, which was up to December 31, 2015, which was updated, then you can create some longitudinal models, which then you can further understand better. So a lot of my work entails in that linked mortality section of it, and I used Cox hazards, Cox proportion, and hazard ratio. So Kaggle.com houses the HINTS, and NHANES, I'm sorry. So looking at NHANES, again, it stands for National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. So it's a vast treasure trove of information. I've been writing so many papers from NHANES, I can almost by memory think about what's going on in that data set. So they have extensive behavioral questions. They have an extensive history of conditions and diseases, all self-reported. However, there's actual lab measures for many of the individuals. For instance, like blood pressure and other lab measures. They even do urinary testing, blood testing, looking for all sorts of sort of variables. Everything from HIV to thinking about many of the environmental factors like PCBs and others that affect our body and environment. So there's a laboratory exam portion of this, and so you take a look at that and work on that. So I've shown you three important data sets: the SEER, NHANES, and BRFSS. Now, NHIS was when it was collected, National Health Interview Survey was a good place to go, but afterwards, I believe, it's an open. So time period covered 2000 to 2015. So I've used the National Health Interview Survey, and this is another place for good cardiovascular disease or multiple diseases. And you can explore this at Data World and trying to see. So this covers, it says 2001 forward. So this is National Cardiovascular Disease Surveillance data. And so there's actually information up to 2015, I believe. It's public. This status is public access information. And so National Health Interview Survey is ongoing, and you have current data in there as well. So this is actually one that I've just came across as I was doing this tutorial. And it's another free data set, which I've actually used before. But, so thinking about some of the global types of studies that can be conducted, and the proposal doesn't take too long to fill. So now, thinking about the data sets that are global, I've done a couple of research studies using this, and so you can immediately see the DHS pre-processed and kind of good to use for Kenya if you're looking to study something. 5 main data files, and I've actually created proposals for this, and they usually ask for only one paragraph, and might have expanded since I used it a couple years back. But I believe the DHS program terms of use are sufficient, and then you take a look. So this is already cleaned data, so you might want to take a look at this, and it actually contains a shapefile, so some geospatial. So what this is very useful for is sometimes there's already cleaned or already used secondary data sets, so then you can analyze the same data set in multiple ways. And so that creates a good clean data set. So this one, it was used before, but you can look at something different. So a lot of times what I'm trying to show you is that a lot of times you have to think backwards almost, because you want to think about the availability of your topic within data sets, and then create a literature review, instead of the other way back, where traditionally we think of finding the gap within the literature review. Here we're trying to find the gap within the existing data sets. So that kind of that changes the frame of how this is thought of. So usually the data is subsequent to what you're studying, but you have to sometimes go backwards and then make tweaks in the literature. And that's how it works with and any other data sets as well. So looking at now, so DHS I went over. And then there's something called, and I want to make sure, something called NATA. And there's a special reason I want you to take note of this. Environmental health, environmental justice has gone and taken quite a few environmental justice movements to get to where we are. Well, 2014 National Air Toxics Assessment is actually the most recent assessment that you have the ability to explore environmental impact data. So if you look at the National Air Toxic Assessment, this is actually conducted by the EPA, which makes it so powerful because the quality of the data can be is time tested actually. So ongoing review of air toxics in the United States. The datasets provide track level indices for cancer risk, respiratory hazard, kidney hazard, immunological hazard, and liver hazard by source, group, and pollutant. So it really goes into the different systems and reviews that within the body in almost every possible way. So there's these pools of information and data, and then so EPA designed the NATA to help reduce toxic air pollution and built on the large emissions cuts achieved in the U.S. since 1990. So EPA also developed a NATA to help air quality scientists collect air toxic emissions data and learn where health risks may be high. So you have guidelines for carcinogen risk assessment. So unit risk estimate, URE, is converted to, so in order to make it a standard, the results of cancer dose response assessments for a given chemical were converted to a unit risk estimate. So to evaluate the potential for non-cancer adverse health effects, EPA uses chronic dose response data to estimate a reference concentration. So as you can see, the analysis is somewhat different than what we have. So like hybrid modeling approach to estimate exposures of hazardous air pollutants, and then association between benzene and congenital anomalies in Oklahoma 97 to 2009, and then patterns of pediatric cancers in Florida 2000 to 2015. And so I'm only selecting a couple machine learning driven identification of early life air toxic combinations associated with childhood. So quite a few, if you click on them, then you'll be able to, this is open access, so you can hone in. It's a bit dated 2013, but this was released in 2014. So some things might have changed, but nevertheless a good sort of data set to be looking at. And that's most of the major data sets. So we've gone over NHANES, BRFSS, SEER, NATA, and then DHS. So this is about 6 acronyms. I think there's more acronyms for, now this is specifically on malaria and how some of the prevention measures a lot of times has to do with literacy. So it has contains a lot of social factors, DHS, but then also there's a separate one representing malaria. So explore the global health. We can't neglect the global health data sets that are available at a local level or state level. The number of ethnicities are all contained within there. I've drawn maps from there and from that information. So it's very useful for those of you who are interested in global health. So that's the summary, and thank you for listening.